Hello there, everyone. Today is Thursday, June 3rd, and this is your weekly Wine Steward video. Nice to have you back upstairs last weekend. Man, what a great one. Even on Monday, most everybody's day off, we had a great crowd up here. So it was a safe crowd, but it was wonderful to have folks at our wine bar again. So as you know, or hopefully know, we changed that menu of wines by the glass and now flights every week. So every week you get a different odyssey at the Wine Steward. There's a whole bunch of wine down there, and I want to represent it, let's say 8 wines at a time on a menu every week, and keep you intrigued, keep you interested, and keep your sense of wine adventure fed and nurtured. So let's tell you about what we're going to do this weekend at the wine bar, but let's tell you first why this big globe is out here in front of me. What would this be all about? What do you think? It's about our next event. I've been puzzling, pondering, thinking about what to do for you as we get back to having small group gatherings up here on the mezzanine, not just for wine bar activity, but on non-wine bar days when we want to have a more designated wine event. So we set the tables, everything gets moved around a little bit. We get out the tablecloths and the good stemware, the spit buckets, the pencils, the order forms, or menus, whatever you want to call them. I think of them as order forms. And we show you one wine at a time. And perhaps we're going to emphasize one winery's wines, like Nickel and Nickel. Perhaps we're going to talk about one particular country, like France, the wines of Spain, who knows where. Perhaps we're going to emphasize one grape variety. Wouldn't it be fun sometime to do nothing but Pinot Noir up here and chase Pinot Noir all over the world? That'd be a fun thing. I think we'd all be putting our sniffers on and pondering beautiful Pinot Noir. So maybe we'll do that sometime. But what I think we got to do, as we're just getting back into the event business, is a benchmark wines of the world event. In other words, since I can't decide which country to do first, yeah, we've done a little Spain, we've done a little France, but man, let's treat the world. Let's do this. Let's do benchmark wines of the world and have great things from all over the place. This event won't necessarily be inexpensive. I think we'll have to price it at about $50 per person, but that is a steal considering what I plan to open. Fact is, I don't even know everything I'm gonna open yet, but over the next week, I'm gonna pick out some goodies. And if I don't have those goodies downstairs, I'm gonna order them in, particularly for this event. I do know that I really want to pour this. This is a 1968 Rioja. Yeah, Tempranillo, that is quite old and doesn't necessarily behave that way because of the way it was stored for not years but decades in very, very large format vats. And as you may know, wine does not age as quickly. It does not develop to badness as fast if you have it in large format. That's why some people collect magnums in 3-liter size bottles, and that's why, based on the same premise, you would keep wine in enormous volumes for many, many years so it can develop slowly but not crash on you too soon. 1968 Rioja, we sold this same wine about 10 years ago. We finally tracked it down. It's finally back in the store, just a few bottles. If they have a few more at the warehouse, then it's going to be one of the stars of that show. Benchmark wines of the world. How about a great Rioja? Of course, we want to see Spain, but we want to go next door to France. What should we do from there? Well, why not really, really good champagne? Oh, I got to move this camera down. I think I will sit down and adjust. Pardon the technical difficulties. Right on. This is a great wine. This is Bollinger. Bollinger Champagne is what I call champagne that tastes like something. In other words, some champagnes are designed to be very evasive and delicate, pristine, verging on prissy, but I like champagne to taste like something. Bollinger, because some of it is done in wood and some in tank because of that mixture. Some of the parts of this cuvee are older wine, and there's some new stuff in there too to keep it fresh. But because all these components, you have wine with character and things you can actually taste. Bollinger Champagne should almost certainly star in our Benchmark Wines of the World event. By the way, when is this thing going down? I think it's 2 Tuesdays from now. So keep an eye on our website and our emails. We will announce it definitively, we will say it is happening. It's going to be around the middle of June, okay? And we will admit 24 of you to this event. So anyway, let's go on a little further. Let's wonder about what else we might show at the Benchmark Wines of the World event. How about this? We had our first visit from our Kermit Lynch rep, Daniel Madero, just yesterday. First time we've seen him in over a year. Kermit Lynch staff were under orders to do nothing but sell a lot of wine on the internet for a whole year and to hunker down and to stay safe. But finally, Daniel has emerged, showed me this wonderful Barolo, and I immediately thought of this event. So this may be the Barolo we do. What else from Italy? What do you think? You know, I mean, what do you expect benchmark wines from Italy to be? Certainly the two B's, right? Barolo. Well, we could say Barbaresco too, but we want to feature two different regions. So let's do Barolo from Piemonte, and how about Brunello di Montalcino from Tuscany? Wouldn't that be great? Wonderful, state-of-the-art, high-end, classy-ass Sangiovese, the blood of Jove. We should do that too. So Barolo, Brunello di Montalcino are almost certain to star at that event. But we also want to surprise you. We want to point out that benchmark wines aren't necessarily renowned, and should be. So why not from the great winemaker Joel Peterson, the founder of Ravenswood, and who is, that brand sold off a long time ago and kind of became meaningless to us. Well, Joel has gone back to his small production roots to make a wine called Once and Future. We've put this in front of you before, but I want to put it in front of you in the form of an open bottle pouring into your glass. This is Mataro, otherwise known as Mourvedre. If you're in Spain, you're going to call it Monastrell. But this is Mataro, or Mourvedre, as grown in Oakley, California. Yeah, Contra Costa County. Some of the oldest vines in California, some of the oldest vines in the world are in Oakley, California. Head-pruned vines, often growing on their own roots, ungrafted, because phylloxera cannot survive in the sands, in those delta sands. And so these vines have the advantage, some people think it's an advantage, of being on their own roots, ungrafted. And in fact, that's how this vineyard is cultivated. So Mataro from Oakley, benchmark wine of the world? Yes, maybe a lot of people don't know that yet. I'd like to show you this. So let's do that. At any rate, it's probably going to be 10 to 12, you know me, it's probably going to be 12 or 13 fantastic wines from all over the world. I'm sure we'll go to Australia for perhaps a Torbreck Shiraz, and we'll go to South America for perhaps high-end Malbec. Who knows? I, as you can see, haven't figured it all out yet, but I can promise you it's going to be great. These wines will not be inexpensive. They also won't be the $500 examples of benchmark wines of the world, because that would kill the budget, of course. And I basically want to keep these things somewhat obtainably priced so that you might want to actually order some for enjoyment later. So Benchmark Wines of the World event coming up. I think it's 2 Tuesdays from now. We'll know for sure any minute now, but maybe as soon as this video's ever. I'd like to now switch gears and tell you about what's going on at the wine bar this weekend. As I said at the beginning of the video, we do a different menu every week. I've got all of these open bottles here in front of me, and I have them in open form because, frankly, I like to taste wine in the morning, but also because today, Thursday, is the first day of the wine bar menu, and it goes right through Sunday, and I need to understand what these wines behave like. Certainly, I've tasted them before with the vendors, chose them for the store, but especially when it comes to the flight, and we are back to doing a flight per week. When it comes to doing the flight, I want to make sure I have a interesting sequence, that we're pouring the wines in the right order. We want every wine to shine. Well, the first 3 or 4 wines on the menu are not part of a flight. They are available by the glass. I'm very pleased to say that last week you supported our notion of putting real live champagne on the menu as our sparkling wine of the week glass, rather than doing something less expensive. We went up to champagne and you supported that. So thank you. You've made me braver. I'm doing it again. So we're gonna do Paul Roger, or as its biggest fan, who is now gone, but is still famously known for mispronouncing the name, Paul Roger. That was Winston Churchill. This was Winston Churchill's favorite champagne. It's one of my favorites. Paul Roger is fantastic stuff that we are putting on the wine bar menu. If you don't mind buying up a little bit for a real champagne, you have a real treat in store. So come on down, have a glass of Paul Roger with us. We always have a bright white on the menu as well. Of course, one of the most famous bright whites of the world is called Sancerre, and as we've said many times, Sancerre is not the name of a grape, it's the name of a place in the Loire Valley region. And Sancerre was poured as a rosé last weekend. A lot of you folks didn't even know that Sancerre came in pink, and you only knew about this kind of wine. This is the white version. This is 100% Sauvignon Blanc, and it is really good. And how do we know? Because of course we tasted it, but because it is brought over from France by a great finder of wine named Charles Neal, and we like everything Charles brings over. As you may know, Charles appears here about once a year to do his big champagne event, and then his guy and I, Tom Switzer, and I will often represent Charles Neal French wines at an alternative time of the year. So hopefully we'll be able to do that again in August. A Tour de France of sorts of Charles Neal imports. But just to get us interested, let's show you this Sancerre. 100% Sauvignon Blanc, grown in all kinds of gravel and limestone. Man, does it say so. There's beautiful fruit in this nose. And you can smell minerality. You can smell wet rocks. It's really like gonna be perfect for a warm weekend. It's lush, it's clean, it's precise. Man, it's good. This is wonderful Sancerre, imported by Charles Neal. The producer is Dolny, so if you don't have time to come to our wine bar and have a glass, you can also buy this off the shelf. And it's one of the best values that we represent in Sancerre. So that's going to be the bright white of the week. You may also know, if you're a frequent offender at our wine bar, that we always represent a rosé on the menu, and that it's a different one every freaking week. Well, this time it's going to be this wine that just got back in. We were out of it for a while because we were waiting for yet another one of those notoriously slow boats to get here. This is called Tibourine, and in this case, the name Tibourine is not a place, but it is in fact a grape. And as we just said, that France usually identifies its wines by the location. In this case, we want to get this relatively unknown grape better known to you, at least its importer does. And so he puts that name in big bold letters as the largest font on this label. Tibourine is grown in Provence. You don't hear much about it, but it is often like 10% or less part of a Provence rosé blend. Why so little? Because it's not good? No, it's fantastic, but it's not a very reliable crop. So some years Tibourine just flunks out there. It just doesn't give you any tonnage. And you know, it's not the farmer's friend. So a farmer doesn't overcommit to a lot of Tibourine. But this importer, who brings in probably 20 different rosés from France and Corsica, well, which is part of France, and some from Italy as well, he wants you to know about this typically minor component in a Provence blend and highlight it. 100% Tibourine happening here. Wow. I tasted this right before the video, and I already came up with a word. This has beautiful barely there-ness. Barely there-ness, in other words, I want a great Provence rosé to be not in my face, but to be very evasive. I want to chase it down. I want it to flirt with me. I didn't even chill it yet, and it's already delicate. When we get this nice and cold, it's gonna really flirt. Wow, beautiful strawberries, a little bit of fennel perhaps. Just a touch of maybe there's a little like sprinkle of black pepper in this too. Man, it smells good. All right, so that's the rosé of the week, Tibourine. Get to know this grape name, and then you will recognize it the next time you see, let's say, a rosé cuvée from Provence that has a lot of Cinsault, a lot of Grenache, and then Tibourine. What is that? Oh, I've had Tibourine. The wine steward sells it sometimes. At any rate, let's move on to the red wines and tell you about the actual flight that we're going to do. Last weekend's Cabernet Franc flight was so successful, I thought, I think you guys really enjoy investigating a particular varietal several different ways, several different interpretations from several different places. So why don't we do that with perhaps the best known grape out there called good old Cabernet Sauvignon. We are in fact going to have a 5 Cabernet flight for you. Let's get this thing out of the way. Focus on the bottle. 5 Cabernets from all over the place. I've got my big boy glass out now, and This is, once again, practice. I need to figure out if this is the right sequence to pour these wines in for you. So I haven't printed the menu yet. And this is my theory that we'll probably start with Argentina and a small producer named Mendel. This wine is not made in the thousands, but only the hundreds of cases. Mendel Cabernet Sauvignon, along with its Malbec, has appeared in the Wine Adventure Wine Club, our monthly wine club, one of our 6 monthly wine clubs. Are you a member yet? Do you want to get 10% off all you buy at the Wine Steward and be exposed to 2 bottles per month that come from who knows where? Instead of getting sameness, join one of our wine clubs for difference. Come on, let's exploit that sense of adventure we know you've got. It smells good. I would attribute vanilla and kind of a rugged earthiness, maybe a touch of peppercorn to this Cabernet. Good medium body, not too heavy, not too light. Great meat wine. Very, very good. Mendel Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon from Argentina. I get confused because they also make a great Malbec, which we also carry. What should we do next? Well, of course, we need to go to Bordeaux, but inconveniently, Bordeaux simply doesn't make 100% Cabernets, do they? They are always blending. A Bordeaux blend is the typical wine from that most famous of French wine regions. So Bordeaux, which by the way, we need to pour a Bordeaux. I think I've picked out a great one for that Benchmark Wines of the World event. But this Bordeaux is Chateau Cravity, and it is in fact a blend, but it has a lot of Cabernet. I think it's about half Cabernet. It's from the sub-region of Bordeaux called Grave. It looks like Graves or Graves, but it's Grave. It's alluding to the gravelly soil that is prevalent there. So roughly half and half Cabernet and Merlot. And we know we're in France now, based on kind of a earthiness, but this is not a cool year. The 2018 vintage actually worked out quite well for Bordeaux. The wine, or the grapes, got a lot riper, almost a California ripeness. And so I actually, as I wave this around, here comes fruit. So there's a wet, dark soil, and then certainly cherries and blackberries as well. And quite a generous mouthfeel too. This is not one of those austere, thin, cool season Bordeaux. This has more body to it, and I think you guys are going to get into Bordeaux via this wine. Good. Chateau Cravity. Good stuff. From Grave, Bordeaux, France. Well, let's go to a place that is, unlike Bordeaux, always pretty warm. A place called Paso Robles for the new vintage of One Stone Cabernet. The profits from this wine actually go to benefit women's culinary education, I believe. Something like that. It's a feel-good story. You can read the back label and know more. Hence the very beautiful label we're looking at here. This is One Stone Cabernet from Paso Robles. It's made by our friends down in Santa Margarita. What is their name? Ancient Peaks. It's actually a product of Ancient Peaks, but obviously with an alternative label. We clubbed the 2008 version of this for our California Wine Club. It was well liked. Many of you have come back and bought more. In fact, you bought us out. So we were happy to see this 2019 come in. We are debuting it this weekend on the Cabernet Flight. Woo, there's California. There's some more vibrant fruit happening. What a gear shift. And again, I'm still wondering, what should the sequence be in this flight? Let's see if I get it figured out by the time it's menu time in an hour or two. This is not just sloppy fruit. This also has some nice black olive going on, as did the 2018. I like this wine in that it's not just ridiculous Paso Robles hot region fruit. There's some dimension. I like this. Good balance. Good balance of body and a nice complexity of flavors. Fun wine, One Stone. Check it out. Also quite affordable. I mean, you're under 20, and with your wine club discount, you're all the way down to $17.99, I think. Well, this wine takes it up a notch. It doesn't necessarily get bigger, it gets classier, as the name Cufflinks might imply to you. Cufflinks Cabernet is all Napa Valley fruit. I believe half of it came from up on Atlas Peak, and the other half is almost certainly from Rutherford, if I'm remembering correctly. Once again, This wine will not necessarily even be as big as what we just talked about in the form of that Paso Robles Cabernet, but Napa Cab can just say so much with sometimes a more medium-bodied frame. There's just like a certain level of classiness happens there, right? Yeah. There's some cedar, a little bit of tobacco, and some beautiful fruit in this. Yep. Good acidity. Nice wine. We're going up in price, not for power, not for darkness, not for more richness than the former wine, but from our class, elegance, Cufflinks. I believe 280 cases were made. It's tiny production stuff that belongs in a wine shop and could never appear down the street at a grocery store. They just don't make enough. We like the small production things. The final wine in the flight, the final Cabernet, is Details. This Details unusual looking label is actually the second label or alternative label for a Napa Valley estate called Senegal. This is Senegal's wine from Sonoma that costs significantly less than Senegal. Say that 3 times real fast. Details Cabernet is certainly going to be the last wine. That's the one thing I'm sure of on this flight, because it is the generous fruit gusher of them all. I think they picked the grapes a little riper, a little later, to get this more unctuous body going on here. It's got more depth, it's got more color. That will be the grand finale, certainly. I got to work on these other 4. It's hard work, but somebody has to do it. At any rate, we hope to see you at the wine bar. We want you to look forward to seeing more news about this event that I believe is 2 weeks from now, called Benchmark Wines of the World, where we will visit all the different wine producing continents and taste great examples from great regions there. So keep an eye out for that, because we can only have about 22 or 23 of you upstairs for that event. Sit-down event, lasts about 2 hours, features fantastic wines, and hopefully that 1968 Rioja. Wouldn't that be cool? Thanks again. Have a fantastic weekend. We will see you soon up front if the weather's nice and sunny, or upstairs on the mezzanine if you'd rather be in one of the most comfortable chairs in Pleasanton. Have a great one. See you.